Welcome back, everyone. It is decision time for over 2 million voters in Ondo State who will finally elect a new governor. With few hours to go, all eyes are on the electorates, the umpire, and the security agencies. Indigents and residents of Ondo State are expectant of a new beginning among the voters and the candidates approved by INEC. The onus is on INEC to deliver a credible, transparent, and fair election in collaboration with the security agencies, especially the police. 18 candidates, 17 rather, are vying for the office of the governor, which has a 4-year tenure. This is a contest for Ondo souls, as said by political watchers. And like other states, that's crying for development, reaching resources like bitumen, oil and gas, and cash crops. Ondo is a field of dreams for a good leader. But to secure the post, the Inspector General of Police, Kadi Egbetokun, deployed 22,239 officers to the state. IGP Egbetokun banned the Amotekun and approved only federal security agents. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps is supplying 6,000 officers. The military, the self-styled departments of state services, and other paramilitary agencies will be on guard. Tonight, let's get the perspectives of Dr. Jacob Pele, policy development analyst, on what Ondo State needs from its next leader. Good evening to you, Dr. Pele. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, beautiful Jumoke, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. So with just a few hours left, what is the atmosphere like in Akure? And from your observation, how ready are the people of Ondo State?
Well, I've gone round. I have had talks with both politicians, some security operatives, civil society leaders. It's relatively peaceful and calm, apart from a few security issues, and I think there is rumor, I haven't verified it myself, that there is one loss of life already, which is unfortunate. But I think this state is a very calm, peaceful state, and people are excited. The governor had declared today a public holiday, but the town is relatively calm. I am in Akure. I haven't gone to the hinterland, but we do have observers across various local government area. Even though our deployment is relatively small, we are deploying just 20 observers. It's relatively small compared to the size of the state. My satellite is on the River Rhine, which is more of a hinterland, ensuring that their vote will count, and INEC would be able to deliver the electoral resources on time, and that this election will kick off on time. All things being equal, I think we will expect a good election. The only concern that I have, which is always the case in all election, is voter apathy. Hopefully, there will be a turnout of voters to participate in the process. We're also very concerned about, from the feelers, the likelihood of vote buying. I wish I could speak the Yoruba language. There's a particular phrase that they use here, which is translated to mean that the money you receive will not be able to, will cook you a pot of soup, and so there is it's obvious that there is a likelihood of vote buying happening tomorrow. But my intention here is not to amplify the situation, but to use this platform to tell every voter that your vote is your power and you don't have to sell it. When you sell it, you have sold your birthright.
All right. All right, Dr. Pele, we'll come back to all of these factors and how they have deterred us from achieving electoral integrity. But let's talk about Ondo State. Just like every other state in Nigeria, Ondo has its own peculiarities and challenges. The next election will usher in the next governor of the state. What must the people of the state look out for in the next governor?
I think they should look out for, first, a God-fearing leader, one that will deliver the dividends of democracy. They should look out for a responsible and accountable governor, one that is ready to ensure that he will utilize the scarce resources of the state and serve the people and develop the rural area. I think they should look out for a man of integrity, a man that is willing to show himself as a good example, because leadership is about a good exemplary leadership. And so it's important that the voters will take their time and examine the candidate with the utmost qualities of leadership, which I have outlined. A good leader should be willing to service and not serve themselves. And I'm sure the Ondo people are wise enough to make the right choice. Let the one that the people feel will lead them and serve them and develop the state. Let that individual win tomorrow.
It's interesting to hear you talk about accountability, because I think that should be the priority here, because it looks like there is a lot to be done when it comes to infrastructure in Ondo State, and most of them abandoned. Lately, some of the traditional heads were appealing to the government of the day to invest more in infrastructure development. I mean, we all know that the growth and development of a state depend heavily on the development of its infrastructure. So how committed should the next governor be about this?
Well, the next governor doesn't even need for anyone to tell him how to develop the state. The development of the state should be paramount. He would have to deploy every resources of the state to infrastructural development. He would have to pay attention to developing the people. Jumoke, it's important that today's leader understand the need for human capital development. I think I do have some friends from this state. If there's anything, if I'm in the shoes of the winner tomorrow, should focus on is human capital development. If you develop the people will develop the state. Invest in education, invest in quality health care, invest in technology. Today, technology is the order of the day, and many youths of this state and the nation in general are technology savvy. And so if you really want to engage them and make the most of them, then show them the technological pathway. And there is a huge opportunity in that field. Ondo can become another technological hub. When I look around the state, I see a huge tourism potentials. Huge tourism potentials. They have a very long, stretched out beach that needs to be developed. They do have a setting for cultural development, for film production, for economic development. This is I mean, we've been going round during this election. All the hotels are fully booked. And so if you do have or encourage hospitality business, it will thrive. So there's a huge potential waiting to be tapped. And I believe the next governor should do the needful by ensuring that he will focus on not just infrastructural development, but development of other areas that is begging for investment. I think this state also have the potentials, the opportunity to look towards direct foreign investment. You know, this is a state that will attract a lot of investment if they open up the state.
Dr. Pele, you've talked about investment drive. You've also talked about tourism and the potentials that are yet untapped, because it borders prominent sons and daughters of the state. That projects like Ofara Mini Port, that is meant to boost commercial activities in the locality, and the channelization of Ofara Coastal Line, where the mini port is located to unlock the full potential of its coastal resources, are not being explored. And you wonder why most of these governors rely on monthly federal allocation.
It's unfortunate, Jumoke, because the Abuja handout, like I call it, has become a source of laziness for some, not all of them, but some governors. They just look forward to that monthly allocation, you know, and once it's gotten, those of them who are physically, who shows that physical irresponsibility, just share the money, you know, and put it in what does not make sense and what does not develop their state. You know, I think many of them needs to look inward and develop their internally generated revenue, the IGR, and also focus on attracting local and foreign investment. You know, sometimes we pay so much attention in trying to get foreign investors, but they're also local investors. You know, create the enabling environment that will attract these investors. Create incentive packages. Some states can offer tax incentive, land provision, you know, seed money. I think some of these states can go into partnership with some trusted local investors and foreign investors. One great investment potentials for any state, is real estate. You know, a lot of Nigerians wants to own homes. So you can imagine when states will open up their states for real estate development. And today, we have a huge partnership potential. People are looking for where to invest their money. And so if you open up your state and you are serious-minded and willing to be accountable, and ensuring that you don't make decisions, like you don't give land for people to come and invest, and the next person that takes over the mantle of leadership will revoke that land. I mean, these are some of the things, the risk factor. If you're able to mitigate the risk and show that investment can thrive in your state, you will attract investors.
Absolutely.
You know, I think there's one point that I made here that I want to re-emphasize. It is local investment. Many times we are looking for foreign investment, spending millions of naira, flying abroad and doing roadshows abroad. Meanwhile, there are huge local potentials for local investment. You know, so also as a governor, whether you are standing for election or you're already in the office, create an opportunity that will attract local investors. Some of these local investors have the capacity and connection for foreign investors. If you have not been able to create that enabling environment for local investment to thrive, foreign investment will not come.
All right.
So these are the opportunities waiting to grab.
Still talking about Ondo State and the many challenges. You know, that state has had its fair share of climate change-induced disaster. As we speak, there's a town called Ayetoro still being submerged by the Atlantic, and residents of that community continue to lose their source of livelihood year in, year out, and most of them have had to adopt to a watery future. But some marine geologists have identified some of these causes. They say one is underwater oil drilling. Some say deforestation of mangroves that help anchor the earth and erosion caused by ocean waves. But it looks like those who have occupied the seat of power do not care about that community or do not know how to fix that problem. What do you think it is?
I think it's neglect. I think it's also ignorance, you know. Thirdly, not reaching out to people who have the solution to solve the problem once and for all. The other thing is ad hoc measures. You know, somebody walks in, probably coming from Abuja with very lofty proposal, and then throws it on your table as the governor of the state. And because you want to please the power block that sent the person, you sign off, and the person gets the money, and he's not able to do and provide the solution. I think there's anyone, including Ondo here, tomorrow, by the end of tomorrow or by Sunday or thereabout, we will know who is the next governor of the state, or the incumbent will take on the leadership. Whoever does that, there's a need to take a strategic overview of what the problem has been, and then find the right organization, or in an organization that can find solution. There's a need to engage thermodynamics, who understands what is required in very complex situation like this. Jumoke, I think the problem is when you hire quacks to do a job that only professionals can undertake and give you a lasting solution. You know, many times they know what to do. Sometimes they bow to pressure from someone who is sending somebody to come and grab a job, pressure from charlatans that comes to with sugar-coated tongues to speak all the grammar and get the job and not be able to do anything.
I'm forced to believe that really most of them know what to do, because for a state like Ondo State, you would expect massive investments in education, because there is this notion that Ondo people read a lot. The number of out-of-school children is not as scary as it is in other states, but if not tackled, may slide into double digits. And for most of the numbers we read on papers, do you attribute this to challenges to weak legislation or bad policies?
Well, you don't need legislation. I'm not saying that it's not needful, but you don't need to legislate education to provide education for your people. You don't need an IQ of a mushroom for anyone to tell you that for your state to thrive, for the people to thrive, it's education, education, education. And I'll qualify it quality education. And so in a state like this, if the next governor, whether it's the incumbent or a new one, tomorrow will tell, must invest in quality education. Quality education, especially the new system of education that is thriving across the world, which is inclusive education. By the way, Jumoke, I led the committee that wrote the first inclusive education policy in Nigeria. And my organization, through the British Council, saw the formulation and the approval of that policy. And my organization also had moved ahead to secure funding that assisted Federal Ministry of Education to review the policy. The current revised policy on inclusive education was funded by Sightsavers through TAF Africa. And so I know what it takes. I know the need for quality education. And I took time with the committee, very diverse, robust stakeholders that we brought together, national and international. The international level, we had to bring in a very prominent educator from East London University. And we ensured that that policy includes the emerging trends in education, which is the universal design for education. So we did, indeed, there are many tools that any state can employ to ensure that you have quality education. There is no need for this state to witness, or any state to witness out of school children. But it's the mess that we see today, right. You know, and I thought that the former education minister would have done better, but nothing much was done. And hopefully this current education minister will take the bull by the horn and address the menace around out-of-school children. This country have no need to see or even talk about out-of-school children.
Absolutely. Dr. Pella, let's go on a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the factors you've raised earlier and the press statements released by your organization. Stay with us, everyone. The development expert is on the program with me tonight as we discuss what Ondo State needs from its next leader. Dr. Pella, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. And let's continue this conversation by talking about the elections, because over 22,000 security officers have been deployed for that election. With the way our elections are militarized, you know, many regard this as a crude part of elections in Nigeria. You know, there was free movement in the November 6 elections in the United States. When is it likely that Nigeria attains this ideal in its elections?
Well, it's quite unfortunate, the militarization of our electoral space. I want to believe, and anyone can correct me, that I think there is some sort of conspiracy when it comes to the claim, especially by security personnel, that this very large number of security personnel are required in an election, especially the off-cycle election. You know, in Edo, the claim was about 35,000. In Ondo, we're hearing about 22,000 or more. One, who tries to verify whether these numbers of personnel by each of these security operatives or agencies are actually true? Do you know what it means to deploy 22,000 men in uniform? 22,000, 35,000. I don't believe that they deploy these numbers that they claim. I don't believe so. And if they do, let them publish it and publish names and where these individuals are deployed. you know. Now, we have a case in point where in River State, a local government election, which oftentimes is as troubling as state off cycle, that River State was able to organize their local government election with just civil defense. And there is no record of huge security breaches in that election, despite all the
Dr. Pele, some would say that's a local government election. You cannot compare it to the government with the governorship election.
Look, Jumoke, that's a local government election across the state. It's virtually the same thing, and even much more complex because you're dealing with each local government and their set of elections. And compared to off-cycle, which is just one set of election, you're just electing the state governor. In this case, you're electing 23 local government chairmen, their legislators, and so on and so forth. It's more, I think it's much more complex. Yes, right. You say that, Jumoke, you can say that the office of governor is much more attractive, and sometimes very contentious. I agree with you. But in terms of spread, in terms of multiplicity, you find out that the local government election in a state is more tasking, because you're dealing with several elections all at the same time. In the case of off-cycle governorship election, you're dealing with just one set of election. But there's no need comparing notes. The important point here is an election held in a state that the security operatives said that they were not going to be part of that election. Right. And he held successfully and peacefully, So I don't believe, I want to underpin and underscore my point. I don't believe that, one, the security operatives actually deploy the numbers that they claim, Two, I think that we can do better with less people and be more focused and, be intentional. Oftentimes, there are indications that sometimes it's even the security operatives that fuel the trouble by the way and manner they handle things.
Dr. Pele, those are speculations that we cannot confirm. But let's talk about a pre-elections press statement.
Don't forget that I've been monitoring election for years.
I hear you, Dr. Pele. All right.
Go ahead.
I want us to talk about a pre-election press statement released by your organization ahead of this election. What were your findings?
Well, for South Africa, we have parameters for our pre-elections, and by tomorrow we will do our mid-election report, and by Sunday we will do our post-election report. It's important for your viewers to know what South Africa looks out for in an election. Number one is participation of persons with disability, and I will speak to that. The second is the process by the electoral umpire. And the third is general overview. That means as citizens, we can comment and verify how the election was conducted. So number one, participation is important to us, because persons with disability, oftentimes they are scared because, one, they don't feel protected. Secondly, they don't feel that the provision that will allow them to participate will be available, And thirdly, they get scared sometimes by mob or surging crowd of voters. And so in terms of preparation, we've looked at INEC preparedness, from the books and from the reports that INEC has given, it's a bit, we have a bit of a concern. Our concern is on the data released. INEC is claiming that only 1,785 persons with disability would vote in the whole state. That is 1,785. That's not even up to 10% of the number of voters that is expected to vote during this election. Over 2 million voters. And out of that, you're saying that persons with disability in this state that I know should be well over 500 or 600 eligible voters, that only 1,785 have registered. And I'll tell you why I think that is wrong. Okay. Number one, unfortunately, this is not INEC's, you don't blame INEC for this. There are many persons with disability who registered but did not declare their disability, either out of ignorance or out of denialism. They just in denial. They're just, denying the fact that they have the disability. The other thing is, like I said, there are many of them that ignorantly did not specify that they are persons with disability. So how many of such people eventually are captured?
But Dr. Pele, I know every election cycle, you make it a duty to educate persons with disabilities on their right to vote and be voted for in upcoming elections. So how far has your team gone with it this time?
Well, Jumoke, we're doing our best, but it's not good enough. I must agree with you. The problem is, and I kept saying it, we don't have credible data, disaggregated data that's specified and shows the number of persons with albinism, the number of the physically challenged, the number of the blind, the number of the deaf, the number of the Down syndrome, the number of persons with the leprosy, and so on and so forth. We don't have that number. INEC doesn't have it. Nobody, not National Population or Bureau of Statistics. The reason is simply that there's been no investment in that area. There is no intentional investment in that area. What every one of us have been doing is more or less like a, scooping and projecting. Doing small data gathering in silos, which actually will not give us the number. And this is the problem. So every election, we will encounter this problem. Organization like ours, what we do, we don't just go out and monitor, we follow the data and go to the polling units and positions where persons with disabilities are, so that we don't waste our resources going to where they are not, and we are guided by data science in doing that. But every now and then we face problems of getting this accurate data and following them to where they are.
All right.
We developed a technology in South Africa, Election Hub, that's able to pinpoint where these individuals are. But again, I agree with you, it's not holistic. And until there is an investment in that direction, we will never get the number of persons with disability in this country. What we do is guesstimate.
But also, how unfortunate is the decision of the ADC candidates to withdraw less than 48 hours before the election? Do you consider it a setback? Does this diminish inclusive representation efforts? And at this point, is there a need for strong advocacy and support mechanisms for PWD political aspirants?
I was going to go to that, and thank God you brought it up. It was very disheartening. Coming into the state, I was happy that for the first time we do have a person with disability who is vying for this exalted office of the state. And 48 hours of the people going to the poll, his name is already in the ballot paper. We were told that he withdrew. I have been trying to get hold of his number so that I can talk to him personally. Today, I had a meeting with the chairman of JONAPID, which is the umbrella body of persons with disability in the state. And he told me in clear terms that this individual does not identify with the community of persons with disability. And it does happen. There are people who have obvious disability condition and they don't want to identify, And so this is the problem. We want to know why he withdrew. And again, this is an allegation. I don't know how true that is. That not only did he withdraw, he went as far as going to meet the incumbent governor who is contesting. I don't know whether there was some form of alliances or there was intra political party crisis that resulted in his withdrawal. But whatever is the case, we will know. We will try to investigate it. I'm here on ground in the state. We will try to investigate it and find out why the sudden withdrawal.
So we're gradually wrapping up. Let's talk about your assessment of preparations by the electoral umpire, INEC. What improvements have you noticed when it comes to logistics? Putting this side by side with how INEC prepared for Edo State.
Well, I understand that before I arrived, that the REC, the Resident Electoral Commissioner, took some time to focus on and weigh in on his preparedness to ensure inclusivity, and I was told that they display some of the inclusive materials that they have. There are two folds when it comes to engagement of persons with disability. Apart from the materials that you have, there is also a need to activate the processes like priority voting, ensuring that the blind will be led to go and vote, especially by their aides, to ensure that there is sign language interpreter and ensure that there is large print posters for the visually impaired, like persons with albinism, magnifying glasses. I don't see any reason why INEC in Ondo will not be able to provide magnifying glasses because election is only taking place in one state. And so all the resources that have been deployed around the state can be brought into the state so that the number of persons with albinism can participate fully. And so hopefully INEC will deploy these resources and these resources will be used. Jumoke, the problem we have had over the years, and I'm really frustrated because I keep saying to INEC chairman, you mean well, you speak so well of inclusivity. You have established, INEC remains the most inclusive organization in this country. But the problem is what they have done at the headquarters on paper oftentimes are not translated to what happens in the field. And I hope that this election will be a test of performance for INEC, getting the electoral officers to use the resources that they have and administer those resources to the people that needs it. That is the problem. That's where the rubber meets the road. You know, using the resources during election is either the personnel are not well trained to deploy these resources, or they are just overwhelmed by the pressure of the would-be voters. You know, in the political, you know, another problem, Jumoke, is accessibility. If the polling unit is not accessible, a large number of persons with disability are not going to participate.
I mean, we hope that INEC continues to do better. But I mean, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dr. Jake Epele. Thank you so much for your perspectives. It's few hours to the election. I mean, TVC News is always ready. Our reporters are on ground to bring us updates as they unfold. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Epele, a policy development expert.
Thank you, Jumoke. I think I would want to use 10 seconds to say to politicians around Ondo State that please, we've received a number of reports that many times journalists are threatened, beaten, camera confiscated. Please do not terrorize journalists who are doing service to this country.
Absolutely.
And every journalist watching, please take care of yourself and report so that individuals like us will take up the matter.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Pele. Thank you so much. Please have a great evening. Bye.
And you too.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a great